Greg just cuts it short. Show off. He has half hair. Yeah. He chewed this not. It's showing. A few years ago, I was throwing rocks. That's what you did with the socks with the pretty flowers on it. You look. And I love the story about someone pulling your wife aside at some school thing or something like that, asking if she was okay. That's what you. They thought I was home. And I wish it was. I used to remember going down in the morning. Yeah, when I was in close. You go to McDonald's now, the exact thing. You don't see here.
All right, we're going to call to order the Park Township Board of Trustees meeting for February 8th. We're going to start with the invocation and then we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. So Clerk Peter is going to lead us in the invocation.
Divine Creator, this evening we gather with hearts filled with gratitude for the place we call home. We're privileged to live in Park Township and we acknowledge the beauty that surrounds us and the blessings of our community. In this moment, we also recognize the challenges and the problems that exist in our changing times. Grant us the wisdom and strength to address them with compassion and understanding. As public servants, we humbly seek your guidance. May our actions be guided by justice, integrity, and the well-being of all whom we serve. Above all, we pray for peace within ourselves, within our community, and throughout the world. May peace prevail in every heart and every corner of the shared existence. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, we're going to start with the approval of the agenda. There's a couple of additions that I'd like to add, if you all agree. We're going to add under action items, letter D. There is someone that would like to have a raffle, and we would need to approve that. That's on your for you. There's letter E, where there's a letter before you as well regarding possible retaining legal counsel for our insurance claim. And then finally, after number 10, there's a closed session item that we should discuss as well. So those are the additions I have. Does anyone else have any additions or deletions? Otherwise, we will look for a motion.
Move to approve the agenda as amended.
Support. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Now we'll move on to the approval of the consent agenda. We have the minutes and the payment of the bills. If someone would like to have a motion for that.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Support. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. Now we're going to move on to public comment. And if you're going to comment publicly, just step up, state your name, and you may comment. And just to remind everyone, this is comment. Unfortunately, it's not dialogue. So, all right, we'll start on this side.
Sure, Jackie Beck. I just wanted to say that I'm happy to see that he's here to discuss the Heart Smart initiative. It's a really good program.
Right. Back row. All right. How about this side? Anyone? All right. We will close public comment. And now we're going to move on to the department reports. I don't know if there's any questions or comments. If not, we will continue on, but this is your time to ask. All right, hearing none, we're going to move on to our presentation. We have Mr. Peters here is going to talk to us about the Heart Safe Initiative. So welcome.
Hey, thank you so much for allowing me to give me a few minutes here to talk about a project that we've been involved in now for well over a year, but will be culminating February 14, Valentine's Day at the Monroe or the Collin Park Fire Station at 11 o'clock, a press conference. And we will be unveiling something called the Pulse Point app, which you can download on your phone, which I'm going to end the conversation with. But I want to get that on your radar screen. The community enhancement program is something that both Steve and I have been involved in. It's designed to give, you contribute to it, designed to give money to those things that most, any individual unit of government would say that's not what we do, but collectively there's things that pop up once in a while that, you know what, there ought to be a pot of money to make sure we fund things that help everybody. I think a good example is when we talked about, I think Howard Fink came to our group probably a year and a half or so ago, talking about cameras on top of the lighthouse to help people make sure that they can find you can find people drowning more quickly for the first responders. Clearly not a Holland problem or a Park Township problem or a Zeeland problem, but we all go there and lives are saved. So that's the kind of thing we're talking about tonight. About 2 years or so ago, I really had no interest in Heart Safe Holland. I had no interest in Heart necessarily. But I happened to be in a situation where a gentleman next to me clearly went into sudden cardiac arrest. The only reason I knew that was because 2 weeks before that, I got talked into taking some training from a guy who lives across the street who wanted to start this thing called Heart Safe Holland. Heart Safe, it's a Heart Safe community, but we want to do it in Holland, so we call Heart Safe Holland. So I took this 1 hour class and learned how to do it, not knowing that 2 weeks from now, I'd be in a position to do something like that. And that hour, I knew instantly what to do when that happened. And I was fortunate that I got trained. And there's a gentleman who was really fortunate that I was trained because he had a sudden cardiac arrest. And he happened to be sitting next to a guy that knew what to do. 1,000 people in America experience a sudden cardiac arrest every day. To become a heart safe community, which I first went to our group for and said, listen, I need $6,000 because we want to be a heart safe community. We need dummies, or we need mannequins. Excuse me, I don't like it when you call them dummies. We need training mannequins. We need training AEDs. We need AEDs that will train. They're not real, but you can train people with. And we got, I think, $6,000 or $7,000 to bet that first. Because one of the things that the Heart Safe Community program requires is there's 11 pretty complicated steps that you have to go through. The first and foremost was we've got to train 15% of our population of the city of Holland every year. That's 4,500 people. And in the calendar year that ended on December 31st, we were over 4,500 people. So now we've got this great group of people who we motivated them. I'm sure everybody's heard about Heart Safe Holland or get trained. Or it's not like the CPR you took probably in grade school or high school. It's not opening your mouth, blowing in their mouth. It's simply chest compressions. And what's happened in the last 10 years is these things called AEDs have changed everything. All you need to do if someone goes down is recognize it, do chest compressions, do them hard and do them fast and don't stop until somebody gets there, the ambulance, a firefighter, or someone who shows up with an AED. So in the process of going through this, and I think it won't be until May before we go before a panel to find out if in fact we've satisfied all of the requirements to be a heart safe community. We stumbled across this thing talking to other communities who did it, and they all mentioned Pulse Point. So what is this Pulse Point thing? Pulse Point is a technology that more than 4,000 communities around the country are using. It's embedded in your 911 system. And anytime, and it allows you, the public, it's free to download an app and leave it on And if you like, and you feel so motivated, you will hit, if anybody within a half a mile radius of you has a sudden cardiac arrest, it's going to ping your phone and say it's through 911, Ottawa County. It'll ping your phone and tell you there's a cardiac arrest. It's within a half mile. Here's where it's happening. Here's the address. Here's a map to get there. And it will tell you where all the AEDs are on your way there. It was about a $25,000 commitment for Heart Safe Holland to do that. I went to a family foundation and raised half of it and thought, well, you know what? This seems like a pretty regional thing to me. I'm wondering if the community energy or the community enhancement program would be interested in that. And they funded the other $12,500 I needed to fund this thing. So we're funded for a year. It's free to the public. It's an Ottawa County R911, as you know. It's a different authority, right? Everybody pays taxes toward 911. Their first thing was, well, we can't just do Harlan. This is going to have to be a county-wide thing because we distribute it in the county. I thought, well, you know what? It's probably a good thing because once we paid for it, once we're involved, let's just continue that and offer it to other municipalities, fire departments, get their buy-in and support. And over time, hopefully every township in the city, in the county of Ottawa will say, you know, we're in, because it's not the first year, it's not going to cost them anything. And they're going to be able to hear from the fire departments, guys like this saying, you know what? Used to be when we get there's a lot of people standing around and they don't know what to do. And they just lay there. And if you don't get there within 5 or 6 minutes, the outcome is not good. But if you get there in a minute or two, and bystanders become the first responders, if you will, the chances of them saving their life, if you start compressions right away, go up 80%. As the case with John Shea, as the case with that football player, as the case, you hear it every day. You don't hear, it's amazing how often you hear about these things. The Leonard basketball player in Fenville, this is what we're talking about. They're showing up in schools, they're showing up in grocery stores, they're showing up, I'm sure there's one, if there isn't one, there should be here. I'm sure they're popping up all over the grocery stores. Do people know how to use them? It's amazing when you go somewhere that has an AED and they say, well, yeah, I think we have one somewhere. How do you use the thing? And part of the thing that Heart Safe Holland does, and what Paul Splain is going to help us do, is make sure if you live in the city of Holland, if you live in Park Township, if you live in Holland Charter Township, you're going to know what to do if you see it, and you're going to know what to do with an AED if you got one in your hand. I think that's critical. None of this would have happened, in my mind, without the community enhancement program that you fund. There are 5 units of government in the MAC. I think we've tried to find reasons why the whole MAC should contribute to this program, because I think it funds things that would be very difficult for Park Township to say, that'd be great, but we don't have the money for that. But collectively, if all the townships gave a little bit of money every year, I think we're in a position to do regional projects that enhance everybody's way of life. So let me get back to this press conference. We've been working for 6 months. Ryan Culver is the main guy at the 911. He's our technology guy. He has been instrumental in providing the technology and talking to all the units of government and talking to the fire departments. I think we've got the majority of fire departments are online already saying we're in. The challenge now is, okay, it's $10,000 a year to upgrade the technology and do these things. I've recently trying to talk to maybe 911 and others to say, just like we do 911, everybody, the township, I think, is charged or assessed for their services, and then we pay that bill. This is $10,000 a year divided among, I don't know how many units of government and fire departments that would pitch into that. It's a pretty small amount. So I'm hoping that's an easy way to have that nut cracked, is every year it's just funded through 911 services, because really that's who's going to benefit. Well, people are going to benefit, but those are the people who are on the front line doing it. So after months of 911 and technology and getting everything ready, on Wednesday, Tuesday, 4th of July, excuse me, I'm way ahead of myself. All this warm weather. Valentine's Day, February 14 at 11 o'clock, there's going to be a press conference at the fire station. And at that time, everybody's going to learn that they can download this app and they're going to be pinged if you want to, and you put it on your phone and you leave it open and you feel like, you know what, I know how to use an AED and I know what to do if I see somebody go down. You will be able to find out, and that half-mile radius is based on the fact that you'll probably get there before the fire department or an ambulance or first responders. And now in these communities that have had pulse point, it's more common than not that by the time the first responders get there, people who have downloaded this app are already there. Sometimes there's 2 or 3 or 4 people who responded to that app are there applying what they need. And that's the game. If you don't get there in 5 or 6 or 7 minutes, it's for every minute that someone lays there, there's a 10% decline in their chance of survival. So if it takes the ambulance 4 or 5 or 6 minutes to get there, it could be not a positive outcome. But if we just know what to do, and I think it's a great thing for this area, this region, the MAC area, there would be signs up to say, we are a heart safe community. We're training 4,500 people, and a lot of those people live in Park Township. The trainings are all in Holland right now, but people in Park Township can come. We're learning. Our whole area is growing with this thing. So I just think it's, I don't know. Like I say, life changes people in different ways. And I remember when I was 10 years old, I walked out of my bedroom and said, what's my dad doing laying on the floor in the bedroom, in the bathroom? And Mom said, don't go in there. Don't touch him. The ambulance will be here any minute. And it's always kind of like, well, how long has he been laying there? I mean, how do you know? It's changed. We can save hundreds of lives if we just know what to do this and really get down with these AEDs, understand where they are. They should be everywhere, and learn how to use them. If you haven't taken one of our trainings, you can go to our website. I've brought with me some cards that have all the information you need to follow up with that. And also just the pulse point, if you Google it, every day their main page talks about in the last 24 hours. In the last 24 hour CPR needed activations of everybody who has pulse point on their phone were 146. 146 people had a sudden cardiac arrest and they needed help. Nearby responded alerters, 498 people in the pulse point program responded to that half-mile radius. I'm going to do it. Nearby, the other thing that we do is all the AEDs are being registered. So first responders will know when they're going somewhere. Where's the nearest AED? That's all part of the when you pull that up, it's going to tell you where the nearest AED is, where to stop and get it. 150 AEDs were registered in the last 24 hours in this Pulse Point app. New app users, 3,410 people have signed up for the Pulse Point app. 3,410 in the last 24 hours. If you go to the website, it'll also tell you that Pulse Point averages a little over 3 minutes. A pulse point person will arrive on the scene of the sudden cardiac arrest, 3 minutes, the average, before any first responder gets there. That's the difference between life and death. It's the difference between maybe you live, but you're not going to have, bad things happen when you lay there too long. You might get resuscitated, but it might not be a good thing. So again, I can't thank you enough for participating in that. Steve. So with that, let me just plug this CEP thing again. I think, there's only 5 of us that sit around that room every quarter, but I think we see the real value in this, and this is a real example of that. And you guys are on board. I appreciate that. I thank you. We're funding some really cool things, and Steve's been a big part of that, and I thank him for what he does too. So anybody have any questions? Anything?
I want to say thank you, Jay, and for your presentation. Question: over 4,000 people were trained in the last 12 months.
4,500.
4,500. What were some of the avenues or venues that you trained these people, and how could that be translated to Park Township?
If you go to our website, it will say sign up. We've had churches, companies, lunches, lunchrooms, park theater. We come, we go, everything we do, everything the hospital, we have a lot of partners. In fact, let me just share with you who our partners are, or who have been involved in this for the last. Obviously, the city of Holland, full-time fire and EMT for the city of Holland, Ottawa County Department of Public Health, American Medical Response, Dr. John Cromer, who just retired to Holland, Michigan, was the past medical director for the Department of Homeland Security. This program, you have to have a medical director that oversees everything. He's been a emergency room expert his whole life. John Shea was a gentleman who's a sudden cardiac arrest survivor. It's good to have a survivor and somebody got taught the same. Chris Tinney, the Department of Public Safety. Cord Vanderhill, retired police officer and local businessman. Steve Stegman, retired EMS manager of American Medical Response. He's really the guy that's been pushing this for years. He made a presentation to Holland City Council about 5 years ago. And I think there was reception there, but then this COVID came along and kind of put the whole thing on hold. Holland Hospital, community department coordinator for the city of Holland. There's room for lots of people to be involved. I think if anybody from Park Township wanted to say, you know what, this is right up my alley. I'm interested in this. I can help do it. I can help train. We can have trainings here. We can do all kinds of things. So it really is. I don't know how much it's really been out there. We did have a press release in, I think, May or June to talk about we want to become a heart safe community. We didn't know anything about Pulse Point when we started that. So this, I think, takes it to a whole nother level, and it's a pretty cool thing. So we good?
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for your time.
It's
Thanks
good to hear, and hopefully this will only spread.
There you go. Oh, I will.
Thanks,
Okay,
Jay.
thank you.
Thanks, Jay. I won't make a motion, but I'll make a suggestion that leaders lead by example. And I would suggest that in the next 3 months that we schedule a training associated with our meetings. Maybe it's a pre-meeting or we come here at 5:30 and have the training. But I would suggest we lead by example and get trained ourselves on heart safe. It wasn't a motion. It was a strong suggestion, but I see people nodding. But I think it's one of those things that I think it would be significant. So yeah. So
Because you're one of our creators to make that happen. Thank you.
All right, very good. So thank you, Steve, for having him come. That was helpful. All right, now we're going to move on to action items. Action item A is the historic hangar. So we will get that information before you. It looks like we have some quotes to consider and authorize should we decide to go that route. So first of all, why don't we, Chad, if you don't mind coming forward, and why don't we start with some questions first, and then we can look for a motion.
You guys have any questions first, or?
I do.
Okay.
So I noticed that Hoekstra Electric helped design the plans. I also noticed you didn't choose them to be the electrician. I wondered how that worked.
Well, the only thing, the Walters is doing the pickleball courts, and there's still some more work to do there, so it'll be easier for me to work with one contractor.
And then that leads to my next question. In your note, it said potential cost benefits, but they weren't the cheapest. Did they give us a reduced cost because they're already working on the pickleball, or?
No.
Okay.
No, it's just barely because they're here, and
Okay. All right. Thanks.
so.
Those are my questions.
Yeah, one of the other things that we don't have done yet is some of the brickwork's going to need some work on it as well. But we have to decide if everybody wants to keep it white or if we're going to blast it, sandblast it, fix the bricks.
That's not in this proposal.
Yeah.
My memo indicates that, just so you all know, there's still quite a bit of brickwork to be done, and brickwork is not cheap.
would that delay the project, or you'd incorporate the brickwork this spring then, or is this something that would be something in the next year or two? What's your sense on that?
Yeah, that's up to you.
Okay,
It's the
so
board, yeah.
it's not a reason it's not the reason to delay something.
New, it will need to be done. I just wanted to,
Okay,
There's a chance that we might have to, when we replace the windows, there's a chance that we might have to replace a steel lintel on one of those windows. I know one of those windows has a steel lintel. And so that could be a little masonry add-on, but it's usually lentils are expensive when they're not easily accessible. That one's easily accessible, so it shouldn't be too big to be. The other, I think, windows have concrete lentils built them.
yeah, concrete or limestone, and we're only replacing, this is the base proposal, we're only replacing 2 windows and a door so that it meets energy code for the bathroom. All the rest of the windows are staying the old factory style windows.
Yeah, we just didn't want you to think that this is, all of it.
I guess I did have another question. When I looked at the quotes for the builders, were they quoting the same thing?
That was, I had the third one that I just got tonight. He still has the old steel repair. The engineer had 2 repairs to repair those trusses on the little lean-to part that weren't up to current code. The steel repair is a lot more expensive, and 2 of the contractors quoted that at first, and I got that all fixed, except the third one that he finally got that to me. He was supposed to have it to me a month ago. I mean, that's just how that's going.
Contractors.
So the Maple Bay did not contract or did not,
No, he has that in there.
oh,
So,
but like I look at like Chad Warren, or excuse me, Brent Paul Builders specifically. I mean, he talks about wainscoting in the bathroom, but I look at another quote, they don't mention anything about that. Is there a difference in
it was,
what they were gonna be
it was
doing?
to that print. So even if they didn't mention it, it's to that print. It has wainscoting on there.
Okay, yeah, I just wondered how one person could do it so inexpensively and someone else not.
And I think some of the contractors, all 3 of these, when I talked to them, they were a little bit hungry, which was good for a quote. Some of them have gotten some more work as I've talked to them.
Okay.
So that may have changed that a little bit.
Okay. Anyone else have questions? I get
assuming that there's affirmative movement on this, how quickly are these contractors gonna jump on it?
So that if we want to do it, I'll have to call them and get us a spot, and then I'd have to let everybody know.
Okay, so there's no slot.
Nobody's holding any slots for anybody right now.
Okay,
So
that's fine.
So the total recommended bids is 134,200 some. And we have in the budget between this year and next year, 200,000. So this should,
yeah,
our budget proposed at this point should cover that plus the brick, I would think.
yeah, it just depends. Once the brick's sandblasted, there could be a little more. It's hard to tell. It's been neglected for a while.
Brickwork can be expensive.
And that brickwork, I said sandblasting, it's going to have to be some sort of special media blasting. That brick is soft apparently, and it'll come apart if you sandblast it. It would just the building would just turn into a pile of sand.
So
Yeah.
And that's sure you want to see that too, Alice.
And the bricks aren't bad. They're just,
that's
we have to be careful.
Yeah, that's the style of brick that.
So we already spent the 50 in this year's budget.
Even if there was no glazing of the brick worn away, you still have to have a soft material for these bricks.
I shudder to say it, but would painting be more practical?
You're still gonna have to tuck point the building.
Gotcha.
So I mean, a lot of people feel like the aesthetic of the paint is nice. We'd have to really Chad and I have to sit down and really talk through it, because you've got a lot of step cracking issues where the lentils meet. I know a decent amount about brick buildings, but where the lentils meet the brick, you get this kind of step cracking because of the rust buildup in the lentil and the water buildup right around that area, and the freeze thaw cycle, and you can see the movement in the brick, and all of that is going to have to be tuck pointed And so it's kind of tough to know exactly what bricks need to be repaired and where tuck pointing needs to be focused if all that paint's there. But
Yeah,
Chad and I would be fine.
it'd be beneficial to blast it, get the repairs done. The repairs could be slightly cheaper if we're gonna paint it, because they don't have to match. Other than size and.
Right, and getting that kind of old brick is, yeah.
Historically, how long has that building been painted? Is that the historically correct finish for that building?
Since we were working on this, I joined a Facebook page of old pictures of Ottawa County.
Yeah.
And it wasn't painted pre-60s or 70s. I don't know when they painted it, somewhere 30 to 40
know.
years ago.
I know we're not trying to be historically accurate.
Yeah.
Because we're putting a modern bathroom in there and all
Yeah.
that, but it is something to consider if it is. Its original form was the sandblasted, clean red brick. Maybe we make a call when you do it, whether we're gonna paint it again. I mean, it's kind of interesting to think that originally, how many years ago it was not painted.
I think you find the brick to be too soft, to leave it not,
Oh, really?
leave it exposed.
It could get, you could get a clear
Clear
coating.
Clear coat.
Because otherwise, if you throw a bucket of water on it after it's sandblasted, it'll soak, none of the water will hit the ground.
And not a clear coat of paint or a clear coat of.
A sealer.
It's a special
Yeah.
sealer that allows vapor transmission in and out without allowing water.
This is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, not a decision we have to make now.
No.
No, and the color, like you guys,
But
good.
overall, it continues to increase the total capital investment we're gonna have in that property. And right now, with what we've got with the 50 grand that we spent this year, about 134, they're gonna be at 135,000. With what we've got in front of us.
Mhm.
You know, you're talking about 25 grand. Or 30 grand, we're gonna be at 250.
But on the other hand, that's the only building we have on the site right now. You think about, we aren't gonna build a community building for 3 years, 2 or 3 years. We have no active bathrooms on the site today. So this literally, besides this building on the site, that would be the only building that will have a working bathroom on it. And so I would say it's a great asset, whether it's $250,000, because we're gonna have Jack Diddley on the site for the next 3 or 4 years. So I think it's a good investment.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, the best thing that building gives right now is the bathrooms.
Absolutely.
Because with the pickleball courts, we're not building those. And this is the bathrooms are cheap compared to building the bathhouse that's on the
And
long-term plan.
I agree with Steve. I like to see it done. I think this will start to bring the community together to this area.
Absolutely.
I'll do I hear a motion then?
Sure, I'll make a motion that we go ahead with the suggested vendors, contractors for the repair of the program and whereas it stands today. But I just want to make sure it's the only ones that we have here, not tuck pointing. You know, the brickwork waits. I mean, we don't have.
Well, come back here.
Yeah, the other stuff comes back, but but what we have in front of us, I make a motion to approve.
With the exception of a lentil that could get replaced,
That
which is a small.
you have authorization to probably repair
It
that.
would be in that contingency.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll second that.
Any discussion, questions? Hearing none, we'll call the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, very good. All right, we're gonna move on to letter B, the policy review. You've all had a chance to look through that.
Yeah.
I guess we could look for a motion to accept them all, accept all the changes as noted in red, or we could take one at a time. So I'll leave it to whoever wants to make a motion.
Has it been reviewed by legal counsel at this point? Dan, have you looked at the changes and agree?
I have not looked at the changes.
Okay. Are the changes, whoever made the changes
They're
appropriate?
what we talked about.
Okay, all right, then I would say, yeah, fine, like,
I would move that we approve the changes as indicated and request that the attorney take a look at it to make sure we're legal.
Support that.
And any questions, discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Letter C is the, keep my comments to myself, the never ending bike path. So it's back again. So anyway, you see the recommendation before. It's actually a little less expensive, so good for us. And so we'll look for a motion to accept that.
Support.
Any discussion or questions? Yep. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Yeah. All right. Now, this was added tonight. It should be in front of you. The approval of a nonprofit to apply for a state raffle. So the Woodside Elementary PTO wants to have a raffle, and we have to approve that because we are the local government body. So if someone would like to make a motion towards that, I'm sure they would appreciate it. Oh, is it a resolution?
Oh, really? They're saying approving local government.
What is a resolution? Who knew?
I didn't know it had to be a resolution. All right, very good.
All right.
So whoever would like to make a motion to approve the resolution, wonderful.
Make a motion to approve?
Support.
Any questions or discussion? Okay. I think we want to do a roll call. I don't think we have to with the resolution. It's just an ordinance, but I think with the roll
It
call.
says yays and nays on the
Okay.
resolution.
Oh, does it? Well, then great. We're gonna
Oh,
do a
let's do
roll
it.
call anyway.
All right. So trustee DeHaan,
Yes.
trustee Jones.
Yes.
Trustee Cerny,
Yes.
trustee Spluhoff,
Yes.
Madam Treasurer,
Yes.
the clerk votes yes. Mr. Supervisor.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Grayson.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm cutting that off.
All right, the next is, there's a letter from Jacobs and Deemer.
Yep.
This is regarding a potential legal consult regarding our issue with the insurance policy. And Howard or Dan wants to comment.
I can, Dan, do you want? Okay, so we have two main issues that we would like to have a second opinion on. Mr. Martin is confident in his analysis, but he is not an expert. As he's indicated, he's not an expert attorney on specifically insurance items and litigation insurance. So we are getting a second consult from a law firm that specializes in insurance litigation. They have actually litigated against Tokyo Marine successfully in the past, which is to our advantage. And the key question here is the issue of the code update monies. There's potentially $1 million to $1.5 million on the table of code update monies. And the insurance company is indicating that that is not available to us if we change the location. We believe that that is not accurate, but we really need to make sure that we are solid on that if There's also a bit of an outstanding issue that may come into play depending on the jurisdiction if we decide to go to litigation, where the jurisdiction of that litigation occurs, and that comes into play with if Barron's, Hendricks, and Stipe were to be a party, that we would essentially be a party of the lawsuit, meaning us, we would be suing them for malpractice because of the mistake that was made. So those are two of the main issues that we really need a second consult on. Dan has recommended that we get a second consult from an expert insurance attorney. I met a colleague of mine at the managers conference a few weeks ago. And they were recommended by one of the managers or the city manager in Grosse Pointe on the east side of the state. And I've had a number of conversations with them. Dan has also talked with them as well. And I think this would be a good firm to use for that consult. Once they finish that consult, then we would discuss those items in closed session.
Any questions?
Can you address item 2 and 3 of the undervalue of the building and the agent misidentifying that?
Yeah, so the agent, and one of the things that we still haven't been able to clarify is if the agent of record, Barron's Hendricks, whether or not they are contractually obligated to us as the client or contractually obligated to the insurance company. It really depends on the relationship between the agent and the broker and the parkland in general. And I'm still trying to get all the documents, our internal documents, to send to the attorney to review them. So that's an outstanding issue, and that matters in terms of how the potential litigation may unfold. In terms of the value of the building, a number of years ago, when we were going through our renewal period, the insurance company indicated that the building was 1 story. The building is actually 2 stories. And when the Barron's Hendricks and Stipe was reviewing our building valuations, they looked at those building valuations and it seemed to match up in terms of the value of the property of that nature. Well, it would match up fine if it was 5,000 square foot building. In fact, that was a 10,000 or more square foot building. And so we actually indicated in the spreadsheet that it was actually 2 stories. We sent them the spreadsheet showing that it was 2 stories, and it was never updated in the documents. Why is that meaningful? It's meaningful because even though we have this so-called blanket policy in the park plan, it's really more in name only and kind of marketing language. There's really no blanket policy. The building was insured for $1.1 million. Now, $1.1 million comes into play on the code update monies. And so they're claiming that the maximum code update monies we have is $1.1 million because that would be what the building is insured for. When in reality, the code update on a building like that would be closer to $1.5 million and could go even higher. Now, Barron's Hendricks has a liability to the relationship of making that mistake. And so there is this analysis. First, we have to decide, are we solid on our position for the code update monies? That we get the code update monies no matter whether or not we rebuild the building in its current location or we rebuild it in a different location. So that's one issue that has to be analyzed. But then another issue that has to be analyzed is whether or not we bring in Barron's Hendricks and Stipe into the equation because of that error. And so it's a big deal. I mean, you know, it's just a little, you know, in retrospect, it was just a spreadsheet error or you know, whatever error it was. But it turned out that that building burned down, and that was a significant portion. And if you go back to I was on vacation, but if you go back to the day it burned down, apparently the insurance adjuster was on site telling some of our employees, oh yeah, well, the building's insured for $1.1 million. Well, no, it shouldn't have been insured for $1.1 million. It should have been insured for no matter what the replacement cost is going to be under the policy, because we were always told that we had replacement values. And even if the value of the building in order to replace it went over and above the $1.1 million, we would have this blanket coverage. Well, now they're claiming that blanket coverage is there, or that blanket coverage exists in the policy, but we don't get it because the building itself was only 1.1, and that's what they're going to limit the code update to. So all of that has to get analyzed by an attorney that is an expert in insurance law, which this firm, you can go on their website, and one of the things it says on their website is that they have a few $1 billion in wins for their clients, specifically related to insurance companies. So the other benefit to Jacobs and Dimer And it just happened to be that I was talking to a manager, as it turns out it's the same insurance company. So does that answer your question?
I think so, thank you.
I mean, and
I follow.
okay, and I'm not an expert in this either, and so I'm learning as we go. Dan, did I explain that correctly?
Yes.
Any other questions? Right, I guess, if someone is so inclined, we'll look for a motion to
Yeah.
enter into this. Okay.
I'll make a motion to enter into a contract with Jacobs and Deemer for consulting, legal consultation, not to exceed $10,000.
Support.
Any other discussion or questions? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, very good. All right, now we're gonna move on to discussion items. And so the first item is going to be fire department medical response, so. Chief. Come on up.
Good evening. You have received my report and recommendation. I'll be covering the EMS overview and this here chart of the pre-hospital care in my presentation. As I stated, Park Township has supported the E-unit for almost 50 years. It's been around a long time, started in the mid-70s, came in as a grant through the Department of Transportation Highway Initiative when they connected Holland to Grand Rapids and completed that. Part of that initiative was to reach out to rural communities and provide pre-hospital care and funded that. The person that was really behind that, he's also pushing the heart saving program with Steve Stegman. He also have met with me and Howard and medical control to overview what we're proposing. Also, Steve Stegman was very huge in getting this fire department started in our MFR program back in 99 or 91. So we've been in the medical side of things for about 30 years. And Steve was a big push of that, primarily the response to the south side. So the E-unit started, and quite frankly, that's the gold plan. If you take a look at your pie chart and how pre-hospital care is operated, we work in underneath the ER doctor. And it's usually the Holland ER doctor that oversees our general area. If it's a trauma case or something like that, we may be working under the Zealand Hospital ER doctor. But we're working under their license, but outside pre-hospital. And so as you take a look, the paramedic is going to be the gold standard. They're the people that are going to carry a lot of the cardiac drugs, be able to administer, be able to monitor, be able to give pain medication, and be able to do that top level care out in the field. And then it will come down. We are proposing being at the EMT level. That's kind of the standard care level where fire departments come in. We see other departments, Holland, Zealand, and Grand Haven in that level, being at that level. And that's basically where the most general fire stations stand by. When we first got into the program, we started at an MFR level, and that's kind of where we are now. That's going to change. We have currently 20 people of our staff at the EMT level. We've got 6 more going through the program. I should know by the end of the month if they have been able to go up And then we'll go ahead and upgrade our license into that EMT level. The big thing is we're regulated by the state in the medical control. And when we go up to that level, we have to provide that care 24/7. So that's the big step. We got to make sure that people that currently are at the MFR level, but one person on that rig has to be at the EMT level. So that's a state requirement. With that, there's some extra equipment that we carry, not a huge big cost on there, but we will get annual inspections and we could get surprise inspections where the state would just come in and do a tear down on our licensed medical vehicles, and they have to have all that equipment in that vehicle and up to date. So otherwise you lose your license. So the biggest thing I want you to go with home tonight about this is we looked at this program. We seen a change in the unit program probably a year out. Is it was harder and harder, and I've talked to this group before, not only about the fire service having harder to get applications, people wanting to join. Currently, I have one application for one spot that we have open, and that's it. We have a lot of departments in Ottawa County that's not filled. Last year was the worst in the state of Michigan as far as certified paramedics coming out, the lowest rate. That was on an average of 150 paramedics a year. They turned out, I think it was in the 30s. It's just like the teacher shortage. Our law enforcement side of the things seen the same thing. Huge competition out there for law enforcement, but then you had to find a law enforcement officer that wanted to be a paramedic. Now, if you take a look at the way the E-unit system ran here, is the big thing is we shared the cost with Holland Township, 75-25. We paid 25% because we ran about 500-600 calls last year through the E-unit program. They ran about 2,000 calls. So if you take a look, the numbers were really close about where it would be. They ran a 6-to-6 car, 24 hours, 24/7. They went from 6A to 6P, 6P to 6A. Then they brought on a car at 9 a.m. and ran to 9P. They brought another car on 3 to 3, 3P to 3A. So what that did is when we take a look and we graph this out, is we look to see when their busy times were in the township. When were them calls really coming in? And it was really grouped from that 9A to supper time area. That's why they had 3 cars on. And we started seeing more and more cases where people were taking time off, being sick, had to go to training or whatever, and those weren't filling. And we ended up, and if a car wasn't available or they had multiple calls going on at once, or they needed help, then we would get called in for an assistance. And just by working together and that talking how operations were running, it was kind of starting to write on the wall of what to do. And so we found it out in about December, we started putting this program together. The big thing I want you to take home from this here is what we're laying out today has got to be dynamic. It's going to change. I'll tell you that right now. What we've laid out, I think we got a great plan. I think we got what I believe a fairly good handle on it. But even having some of the experts in the field taking a look at this, they said things are going to change. We're going to learn a lot in the next 3 to 6 months on how this operates. And we're going to have to change accordingly. And so we're going to build that into our program. My recommendation is, first of all, reinstating my office manager back to full-time. With the extra amount of calls that we have come in the paper, it comes in that's of vital important for the operation of the department. We are going to produce a lot of administrative stuff that comes with medical calls. Besides payroll and all the other there. And I think that's a vital move. She's already at almost 30 hours a week. So it's adding about 10 more hours to the process, and then the other cost that goes with that. My recommendation is hiring 3 firefighters, EMTBs that will fill that 7A. Will run 1 vehicle from 7A to 7P 7 days a week. There will be 2 people on that vehicle, and every day. There will be 3 full-timers that will be assigned to that. There will be a full-time person that we're going to share some hours with our code enforcement, and there'll be an EMTB. So they will have to donate or not donate, but they'll be over in the office here dealing with code enforcement for 16 to 18 hours, depending on the fluctuation of where it is. And then we'll backfill that position there over here. We'll backfill that with the firefighters that we have on staff. We'll make it offered for them, and it will give us a good look at maybe some of our future employees coming up to the full-time staff. So why do we need 3 firefighters? The big question is, or why do we need 2 people on a rig? That's usually the number one question that comes out. The E unit ran with 1 person. That is true. Society itself looks at police officers different than they do firefighters. That's a common fact. Even myself, being a firefighter, when I walk in, I see 2 law enforcement officers there. It's a different look than me looking at a firefighter. The other thing is, if you look at the fire service and the police service, look at the culture and training. That's where it comes from, the culture and training. When I was trained as a firefighter, in all the training that I went through my whole career, I've been trained to work as a team. Not alone, not separate, as a team. My administrative staff, the stuff that comes out of my office is a team effort. This here, putting this program together, I can't believe and thank enough people that have helped me putting this together. That's my culture. That's the fire service culture. We don't work alone. We can, and I've talked to you before, that if things really get bad, we can go 8 or 9 medicals deep because of the equipment. July 3, here in Park Township, we had medics working by themselves. We are overwhelmed. We have the equipment, but that's not the norm. There's a safety issue, there's a risk issue. None of us is trained at all in the hand-to-hand combat. The hand-to-hand combat I learned was with my brother and on the playground. It wasn't from a class. If you look in the police service and the culture, we see police officers in cars by themselves, working by themselves, they're trained by themselves, they carry a gun, they carry a taser, and they're trained to hand tactics. Everything that we've done in the fire service here, everything that you've approved, if you walk in to the fire station, you'll see safety. You provided us with the best equipment for safety. If we run people by themselves, we're not thinking of safety. One prime example that I took away from here, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but about 4 months ago, had one of the board members make it publicly thank the department, and I took it back to him and took it back to the department in our department meeting. I said, hey, this was brought up in a board meeting. That was you, Steve. You were in a bicycle accident. If you remember what you said that I took back was a lot of people came and a lot of people helped me. Was that your expectations?
Surprised.
You were surprised.
Yeah.
How would you have felt if just one person showed up?
Not good.
That's great. That's customer service. We're in the customer service business. That's a representation of the community we live in. We're seeing more and more multiple family housing, even though they're single family, we see double families living in there. We're running more and more drug type calls where the medical is dealing with that. I've had to do medicals by myself. It's not good, and I don't think our patient gets the care they need. Not for pre-hospital setting. When there's two of us, we can get a lot of things done. If you take a look at the Virginia Parkers south side, I don't think they're going to see a change in service at all. And the reason why is last year they ran 32 medicals. They ran about 90 calls over there. 32 of them were medicals. The unit stayed on the north side mostly, and that's where they should. That's where all of our population is. They do go out there, but if they're out there and they get a call over in Holland Township or North Park, they got a long ways around. That was one of the reasons we started back, if you remember, back in 91, the reason we started the MFR program was because on the south side, we had a long delay. And so we automatically started out, as soon as that medical came in, we were toned out. You're not going to see a difference there. Where you're going to see the difference is on the north side, and that's where that manning would be at the Perry Street station. That 500 to 600 calls a year is going to add on to the 300 to 400 that we run. We're going to be in the 900 to 1100 calls a year, and we continually to grow. We continually to build. Just last month, we approved 3 new subdivisions. West Idaho School had just received a huge bond approval, and I'm meeting with them next week on a new pool they're putting in. They put a performing arts center in there that's going to draft a massive amount of people coming in. The football stadium in West Idaho is now going to be hosting the lacrosse state finals. They took that away from the University of Michigan because of the fields and the housing that they have for the athletes. So for the next 10 years, the lacrosse state final championship in the high school level will be here at West Ottawa. Great thing for our community. When I look at it from a fire side, I'm looking and saying, I could have 5,000 to 10,000 people increase on a weekend here, coming in and out. We're building this huge park across this, in back of us here. How many people is that going to bring in? 100,000 this year? We're going to get calls out of that. First year we built the ballpark or the dog park, we had 12 extra calls with the dog park just for dog bites. So it comes as we continue to improve, our population goes up 30 to 40, 50,000 through the summer. Using the Big Lake, last year alone, we had 2.4 million people go through the state park. Station 2 will get a lot of calls. I think one of the obstacles we're going to have to watch and take a look at is at 7P to 7A, especially on the north side. If we start getting them people up 2 to 3 times a night, and then they got to go to their full-time employment in the morning, it's going to be tough. I did that for many years and it's tough. And it's not fair to my employer. And it's not safe for our employees. So we may have to look at altering that schedule. I do have an architect just coming in right after Valentine's Day to look at the building, just to give us a figure of what it would cost to put living quarters onto that building. Just get numbers right now. And we'll see where this program goes. But we'll learn a lot in the next 3 to 6 months when we get it started. I guess any questions?
Anyone have any questions? I do.
Okay.
So you're talking about, you're looking at the EMT level, not the EMT specialist level, correct?
No, correct.
And then what intermediate medications do you use?
Probably
Narcan.
Narcan, epinephrine, oxygen, glucose, intermediate airways.
Tell me about that.
We're going with the iGels and NFPAs and OPAs.
And so in response to Steve's accident, and there was a lot of people there who showed up.
Park Fire, Ottawa County Sheriff, and AMR.
Okay. So I guess my question is, if there is 2 people that respond, does that mean no one from fire department is going to respond anymore?
Correct.
Okay, so it would just be 2 people.
2 people, correct, for that first call. Yes.
Okay. And if there was 1, would the call go out to the rest of the fire?
If
For volunteers?
correct.
Okay.
Yes, for a backup. Yes. Or if another call, and we haven't even gotten discussed about the multiple calls that we had, the back-to-back calls. Last week, we had 4 calls that came in within 2 minutes. Is that normal? No, but we split. We had trucks going in all directions. So, so if the first call would go out, you would have the people with 2. The second call would go out would be myself and one of our firefighters from that station. The station call would go out and they would meet with me and go.
That'd be paid on call coming in.
Right, paid on call, correct. From their norm.
We do it.
Yes, yes. But it would eliminate those calls. The on-duty staff would handle the day-to-day, the CO calls. There's no use to bring them out if they're not running a medical, they would do that. The big thing that we learned from medical control is if we have a fire that comes in there, okay, so during the day, we have staffing here, we got 2 people on and myself, and a fire comes in, I only can commit one of those firefighters off that EMS rig to be interior. The other one can work on the outside and be able to be a grounds person and help there, but they have to be available for a medical to come in. Because if a medical comes in, even we're at a fire, we don't have the police side of things backing us up like what we do now. And we really can't call in Holland Township to take that medical or Port Sheldon because they're already being called in to help us with the fire. So we have to leave one person available. As soon as we get more staff there, that second seat would be filled with somebody that's coming in. So we, like I said before, we have to respond 24/7.
If there's, you're just doing 7A and 7P shift, why do you need two vehicles?
Well, for that second call that we run multiple calls that comes in. So there would be two vehicles,
But if you
Go in
have
there.
two people on and they're in one vehicle, I'm assuming the other vehicle is.
would be at the station waiting there, and that would be the next vehicle to go out instead of using our engines. And the reason why we don't want to necessarily use the engines is running that amount of calls on an engine or on our rescue units is really going to push up our maintenance costs. It's going to push it enough where the smaller vehicle would pay for itself. What vehicles we're looking at that I put in there and the cost would be just over that first year is going to be a vehicle about my size. Or like the E units.
Question, Chief, 7P, 7A, percentage of calls, if you were to say, okay, we have, I think I heard the 500 medical calls. How many are in that window? I mean, you didn't mention how many calls are in that evening and night time. Is it 50 or what's the?
Okay. I might have a graph that shows that. I don't have the actual number out.
It was the high percentage. It was the vast majority of the calls was 7A, 7P. And ironically, it was really, actually, I should restate that. It was 8 to 8. The vast majority of the calls were 8 to 8. And we talked about why not do an 8 to 8 shift. And it really is more of a culture thing of shift schedule.
Sorry, didn't include that in the packet. That was good. Good question. We looked and we tried to cover that 12-hour shift at the majority of our calls. Shifting it. That's what we wanted to do. And we see the majority of the calls in that time zone. So.
Man. Can you go back to the south side? You said there really wouldn't be much of an impact over there. Can you just share then how that will be handled? Just like it is today?
That is correct. Yes.
Can you just briefly summarize how we do that today? Out of that south side?
Okay. How we do is set up just like our north side, except the north side is not called out on it. Okay. The south side, we'll talk about the south side. So a medical comes in the south side, goes to 911. Okay. They automatically at one time dispatch an ambulance, the E unit, and park fire. So we come out on the first call. Okay. When we respond there, and we're going to be 99% of the unit times, we're going to be the first unit there. And the reason why is we built the fire station right in the middle of the township, and we got about a half mile and about 2 blocks each way to go. So we're there. Very short response times.
So will you have staff there 7 to 7?
No, we have no staff there, and we won't have any staff there. Because like I said, there's not that many calls there. And during the day, people that are home will leave from their house, grab the truck and go. Soon as a call comes in, if I'm working over here, I start heading over there. But usually I'm the backup because we have people that are home during the day that can respond. We have 14 people there and not everybody works during the day or they have jobs where they're being off. So our response has been really good. And at night it's fabulous because we have people really close to the station and we don't have to go very far. And so the majority of the time we'll get there, get the patient stabilized, depending on what it is. AMR responds down 32nd Street. Usually they're very quick in there. The majority of the time we're able to cancel the E unit because they could be over in Holland Township. They could be over in North Park. They could be a long ways away coming around. If we stabilize the patient and AMR drives up with a paramedic unit, which they run paramedic units, we'll disregard the E unit.
Thank you.
We don't see that changing day or night. We just don't see that changing a lot. Where our change is gonna be here.
So today, would the fire department be the first ones on site?
On the south side?
Yeah.
Yes, unless the E unit was riding over there.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
So just to clarify though, we're talking about hiring new people. Or we're gonna have trained people. Those trained people are gonna be on the north side or they're gonna be on the south side?
They're gonna be stationed on the north side.
Okay, so then when you say someone's gonna respond down there, they're not trained.
Yes, they are.
They are. They're, let me clarify. They're
They're
on call. They're paid on call.
Okay, so it's still not the two that we're talking about that'll be trained or stationed on the north side. It's somebody else.
Correct.
Correct.
Got it.
The station.
Station.
Yep.
Okay, that will also have that same training. They'll also have the same equipment.
They have it now.
Okay, all right. Got
And
it.
the whole department is going to EMT level.
Okay.
So
okay.
that's something to know.
So we're not just talking about the two that would be at that level,
No.
like four.
We are-
The whole department would be at that level.
We are bringing the
Yes.
department up to EMT level. We are having all of the firefighters be trained as an EMT and we're paying for that training.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And we've done that since 91. When we started our medical program, anybody that was hired on the fire department had to become a medic.
Okay. Thank
So
you.
everybody, when I say our whole staff is trained at a medical level. Starting January, we raised from MFR to EMT. So any new recruits that I bring in, part of their hiring requirement will be you have to get your firefighter 1 and 2. You gotta go through the fire academy and pass it by the state. It's a state requirement. In a Park Township requirement is you have to go through an EMT class and you have to get your state EMT license and maintain it during your employment with the department.
Got it.
Every 3 years, we have to get recertified and we got to turn in 30 hours of credits of training in medical in that field to the state. And the state tells us what we got to train on. So it's a continually going to school. And that's not just Park, that's any fire department.
What is Port Sheldon doing? Because they're in the same position we're in, correct?
No, they're not part of the, I don't believe they're part of the E unit program.
So,
Right.
okay, they're not part of the E unit program, but now we're no different from them, correct? Because we're no longer gonna be part of the E unit program, correct?
Right.
Okay.
Their population
So
is,
what are they doing?
they're leaving and running what they do. They're keeping it like it is.
On call.
On call, correct. Yes. That's really the only choices you get. If you weren't in the E unit program, then the fire departments took it over or did it. Holland City does, Grascap does, Zeeland Township, all the departments in Ottawa County, fire departments run medical.
When they, follow-up question if I may, when they run, when Port Sheldon runs on a medical, are they running with a rig or are they running with a more of like a chief's car and more of a medical unit?
They're running with a smaller rescue unit, not as big as ours. It's kind of like a box truck. So, and there again, their population, they're not going to get the numbers that we do. You know,
So just, I appreciate that question, Jim, because it would seem, I'm starting to get clear on this, it would seem like Park, Holland, and Georgetown that was doing this E-unit contract system, we were more of an outlier than the norm. The norm is Port Sheldon is first responder is the fire department. It sounds like we were different than everyone else, and we probably had the money we had the money to do this. So this is what the rest of the county deals with.
I think there was only 2 counties in Michigan that was doing E-unit programs. I think it was us in Oakland or Genesee. Genesee.
Kent Company had one a while back.
Well, yeah, they've all done it, but they've all got away from that side of things. So, yeah, like I said, back in the 70s, very popular. The system worked great. And, you know, the big thing, you can see all the little factors that has affected that program. So.
Gotta be population driven though, don't you think? I mean.
We could afford it. We got a lot of people.
You know,
Yeah, that's what I meant.
So
Compared to Sheldon or Lake Town, I mean, they're talking 6,000 people compared to our 19,500. Yeah.
but it's also too our inflation of people during the summer months. That's huge when we build stuff and our inflation level goes up because of activities. That's when we'll draw more calls for service. And that's what it's really based on, is calls for service. And the more people you bring into the area, you have more of a chance for calls of service. You know, I mean, we have the pickleball courts here. You got to take a look at it and say, how many people will we have that get hurt on a pickleball court, or could have a medical emergency or a medical problem, or they're pulling out on Outwood Beach Road and there's a, you know, an accident and stuff. The more people that you put into that chance and system, you're going to get more calls.
And then maybe you can answer this, because it would be the extra 500 calls. 2, how many, what's the distribution over the year? Are more in the summer, less in the winter?
Yes.
And 2, how many are quote unquote legitimate? So if they get called to the dog park because of a dog bite, most people don't need an EMT for a dog bite. I mean, so can you give some idea about that? Yeah, come on up.
So exact numbers, you're definitely gonna go up in the summertime. Wintertime, January, February, gonna be a lot slower. So as warm weather, people get outside, get more active, those numbers are definitely gonna go up. Giving you exact numbers, I can't give you those. Legitimate calls, like with our paramedic skills, we probably use those like the stepping above the basic level and using paramedic skills, maybe 10% of the time. But when you do, it's a life-saving difference. Going from saying, okay, this call is, you know, not even really a medical need, pretty small. The dispatch is pretty good about weeding that out and telling us whether or not we need to go or not. So I would say a relatively small amount. Times where it's a needed response for medical, but you don't do a lot, is relatively high also.
And then are you at paramedic level?
Yes, yes,
Okay,
sir.
okay. All right. Good, thank you.
But at the budget meeting today, we saw a delay in some of the purchase of the boat and the water safety. This window of time that you're in would seem to shift your focus a bit. But how much is on your plate? And water safety, we just went to the voters to approve a millage to do some increased water safety activity. Can you give us a sense of the balance you're in right now, but also then the level of water safety do you anticipate happening with the equipment that you have today and the training you have? Obviously, you're trying to do both trainings at the same time, I think. Could you give me a little sense of what's going on there?
Great question. I'm glad you asked. Yes, we were really moving forward on the water safety portion of it. In fact, we got another agenda item coming up that we'll be talking about it. When this started coming down and we seen this come down, it moved to the top of my plate. This is a big project. This is probably one of the toughest projects that I have ever worked on, trying to put this EMS system together. And I met with my boss and told him that the boat project is very important. It's important to me. I think that's the right direction we're doing. But I evaluate my department and my manpower and my personnel. And I expect from myself and from my crew an excellent product. If I try to do it all, that's not what you're going to get. And I know the taxpayers, I know myself, approved a millage to do this. I think it's important in that. I think it would be not a great idea to look at purchasing a boat right now. We got the jet skis. We got a lot of training to do on them. We're working on there. I'm meeting with the instructors. We're getting that ready to grab in the spring. We got a big animal here with this EMS unit program, trying to put it together and making sure working the bugs and everything out. I've been telling you it's a dynamic program. I think you're overloading this. I don't think you'd be happy with the project. I don't think it would do very good for the cost that we're going to put into it. I think it's important, and I think we should keep it there. And I believe in a year, we'll probably be in a better spot to really focus on it.
Follow-up question then, the water safety level that you will provide using the jet skis and using the fire department trained as they are or expected to be trained, will it be comparable or better than what we have received in the past?
Absolutely.
Better. Yeah, my sense, I just want.
We're going to have people out on the water.
Yeah, so that's what my sense is that even though you say I can't do both, but I sense that with what you're delivering, you're still delivering water safety with excellence. Now, we're not going to go out there with a boat, but you're going to be out there.
Right. Before we had the jet skis, we were an onshore rescue too. We had no vehicles or way to get out on the water unless a bystander would put us on their boat. We didn't have a boat. Holland City went out and we really relied on the Coast Guard and the Ottawa County Sheriff. We had no way to get out on the water. So that was our water there. Now, if that water froze, everybody on our team everybody on the department is trained in ice rescue. Yeah. And we had the equipment to get out on the ice.
I think that what we just need to communicate to our community is that there has not been a compromise in water safety. In fact, you're going to get a better product and better service with excellence with what we have coming out this season, in spite of what you just got voted on. I think that's the messaging, is that we're not going to compromise the water safety that they voted on. And so I think that's the messaging. We just need to make sure that our community recognizes we're all in on water and on land. I mean, it's a twofer.
Absolutely. We didn't forget this. We just really prioritized two great big projects. And I can tell you, we're going to see, not that they're any more valuable or anything, but we're going to see more medicals than we will on the water rescue. And that's what we focused on. And we're not losing sight of that. And as things start running more, and especially as those people that are there, they're going to help take some of that responsibility of developing the EMS and getting that going. That's going to free me some time up where I can go back and work on the water safety.
So
So,
we still have Ottawa County Marine Patrol out there with their boats, so, you
Yep.
know.
so I,
And what's gonna be, because I would kind of do things different myself. Ultimately, the board decides. I would probably start out low and then jump up. So what are you gonna find out if you're starting off with 4, you have 2 vehicles and you find out maybe we don't need that much? Is it gonna be easy to back that up?
yeah, I mean, we'd still have those personnel that we would have to deal with in the vehicles, but all the looking and statistics and that, I believe that's why we're starting out where we are with there.
Because I'm just looking ahead at ultimately your budget, okay, because to maintain this is costly. To also consider water safety, and I don't remember the exact figure of just maintenance for what's out there is gonna be a good portion of your budget.
Correct.
And
Yes.
I'm just wondering if that's the case, where will equipment replacement costs come from, et cetera?
As part of the EMS side of things, we do that kind of on an annual basis that is kind of built into what my budget is. The biggest cost, the 200,000 of this year's or my estimate there was getting these 2 vehicles and getting them set up. And then that $200,000 is going to drop off. We're not going to need next year. We got the vehicles. If something really turns down in that, my vehicle doesn't need to be replaced, but if we couldn't get rid of the one, then that would be the replacement for my vehicle. But I put another 5-year, at least another 5-year on the command vehicle life expectancy on it. I see these 2 vehicles, the mileage going up on them fairly quick because they are going to get used every day. You know, they're going to get absorbed. They're going to have not only the 500 to 600 medical calls, but then they're still going to have the fire calls on top of them. So they're going to start running that every day call volume. So I think you're going to see the use and stuff out of them. You know, we kind of have a really good, and I started this like 10, 15 years ago, a replacement program. So when we bought a piece of equipment, we give it a shelf life. And we built that into our budget. And Connie has that. We actually built it in 4 different ways. We looked at facilities, apparatus, large dollar equipment, and personnel. So
We talked this afternoon a little bit about this, and is there a chance that we can get from the county any medical equipment for the vehicles or vehicles that they'll be selling?
Well, let me rephrase that. I think the question needs to be asked, and I'll probably speak with the sheriff, but if you can bring back the message. I think we've already paid for those units. So the question becomes, what is the value of the existing, not only squad cars that has been paid for, but also the value of that medical equipment. So I'm not expecting us to pay for it again, because we've already paid for it. So I just wanted to clarify that one point. Lauren, you had mentioned, what was the piece of equipment you were talking about earlier?
Those life pack things.
Life packs. So, you know, those are the things that we need to talk through, is how that equipment ends up getting allocated. And then one question that we'll have is, depending on the type of vehicle, I know some of the E units are running out of an SUV type of car, and others are running out of a squad car. No, they're all
SUVs.
They're all SUVs. Okay, so then the question becomes, are those our cars? Are those 75% Holland Charter Townships and 25% ours? Do we own those cars? We need to kind of work through that, because you know, as you know, the purchase of the vehicles is a big cost driver.
I don't have any.
I know that, but if you would just bring that back to the sheriff and the under sheriff, and then I will follow up with that. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I just have, excuse me, an observation, and it really doesn't go to the chief, but it really goes to the fact of some of the information he's sharing here with West Ottawa Stadium hosting the football championships, the state park, our park, our community park, or what?
Lacrosse.
We have no, so that's going to be a bunch of tourists that we're supporting. And we have no income from tourists. We don't have any hotels. We don't have any income coming to us to support any of this. So this is on everybody in Park Township, the residents. And not just making that point.
Well, and as we discussed today, Terry, there's no way the current village covers all this. So now we have to start thinking about our funding sources for that. Where are we going to find the money? Whose budgets are what budgets are going to have to be sacrificed in order for us to pick up this additional cost? So this is a very big deal.
It's a big deal.
I think too, though, we have to make it really clear to West Ottawa, if you're going to host a state lacrosse event, just like a football game or anything else, you had better have first responders right there on your nickel, right? They're going to be there, right? And I think that's I think where we need to make sure we push back from the perspective of, you know, look, if you're going to hold an event like that, it's your responsibility to do this because we can't cover you, right? We can't cover you in a reasonable manner.
Currently, we don't have, I just want to, this is not a conversation for tonight, but it's a placeholder that we need to now start having this conversation. I do not believe we have recovery costs in the fire departments. And so maybe we need to start saying, hey, we're not going to place a rig at the stadium unless we're paid for it. And now there are fire departments that do recovery. They generally do recovery in communities where there's a lot of accidents on major highways. And so there's a whole litany of recovery services. There's companies that do recovery services, but we need to start having that conversation if we're going to be taxed at those levels.
It's no different than what we talked about hookup fees, right?
Absolutely.
We have to make sure we protect the larger population and our larger business responsibility.
We do have a cost recovery and hazmat cleanup. So a fuel truck is coming in to go to the mobile gas station, tips over and spills their fuel, and that cost would not be to the township. It would be to that service.
But the same way that if somebody has an event at the fairgrounds, they have to hire off-duty police officers or officers from the sheriff's office to help patrol that. And they have to pay for that service because other than that, these guys are on call or they're on the road. And so that is a common requirement. And I can start seeing that happening for some of these large events with the fire department.
I do want to comment on a comment that Jim made. If a single vehicle was purchased to start, and the simple fact is that vehicle is going to go out on the first shift and it's going to go out on the second shift. And on the time that we do need two vehicles at the same time, you do roll one of your trucks. I don't think that's a bad way to start. And from a fiscal responsibility point of view, it feels more like, okay, we're gonna kind of see how it goes, right? I don't disagree that we might work ourselves into a situation where it's obvious, hey, we need two vehicles. But I'd rather be in a situation where we've proven that we need two vehicles than to start off with two vehicles. Would that be acceptable?
We'll make it work. Like I said, it is a dynamic process.
Yeah, I mean,
That's the process on the south side.
right.
You know,
Yeah, you probably will determine that decision on the second vehicle within the first 6 months.
Right.
You'll know.
Absolutely. This is, and I guess that's what I wanted you as the board to be an open-minded that, hey, this,
And it's not even clear that we order the vehicles now that we'll have,
Right.
even if we had 2 vehicles, it's not totally clear that we order them now and we have them equipped by the time necessary.
yeah, I think I put that on one of my thing, if the vehicles are available. Talking to all 3 models, they were like, yeah, we'll see. Let's see if you get the vote first.
That's something I
So,
told Chief about
yeah,
earlier.
we might be running our vehicles.
And what happens is they're using his Chief's card, which is fine.
Yep, then,
It's not a bad way to start, right?
Right.
And then we get to prove need, or we get to prove what makes the most sense.
Yeah.
And please don't think that, it's not that we don't want support, we just want to make sure we don't make mistakes.
that's our main goal.
Just a follow-up question or follow-up observation. I would imagine over 50% of the calls that are beyond 168 toward the beach are out of towners. If I was to guess medicals and safety, if I was just to spitball it, because, I would just say you're probably getting a lot of visitor calls.
I think we need to, if we're not already creating metrics on that, we probably want to think about doing that.
Yeah,
We are.
Cost recovery system on those type of calls.
yeah.
So,
It'd be interesting just to know what the zip codes are and how many are Park Township residents and how many are not. And Brian, we're doing a lot of calls for a lot of other people. We like them here, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Please come.
Yeah,
But,
well,
but stay healthy.
Yep. And it's just not our community bringing the people that come into Holland or other areas, and you're going to be there a couple of days. You drive around, look at other areas. They come into Park Township. So it's.
Any other questions?
Are there any grant monies that you could apply for?
AFG grants just came out and I'm looking through there. The big thing that I was waiting for in May, and you can put in from the fire service side, you can put in for one, either the staffing one or the prevention one or the AFG, and that I was putting in for the Port Marine grant there, and that comes out in May. That was the big one that I wanted to put in for to try to secure funding for the boat. So, but we can look at both, but the grant would be, if we put in for the grant, now it would be drawn in 25. So it would be a ways off.
Ottawa County's budget's bigger than ours. Is there any funding available from Ottawa County since they're making the decision to cancel the program? I mean, if they said, hey, we'll drop a couple of bucks. If we were to make the request going, like, would you go halvesies on a vehicle? I mean, they got $55 million of ARPA money. This would seem like it'd be I can't imagine they have it all allocated. I'm making a huge assumption here, but the dysfunction of that group up there, I can't imagine all the money isn't available yet.
That wasn't discussed at any of the meetings that we talked about, but it can bring up, I'm sure we're going to have follow-up meetings.
Yeah.
I think that's a legitimate question.
Absolutely.
And I think it's a question that needs to be posed to the sheriff and the undersheriff. And I think it's a question that needs to be posed by.
It should be posed to our county commissioner who represents our district.
Right. Absolutely.
Thank you for that.
Any other questions? So this was about discussion. We don't need to decide anything tonight, do we?
No, but I think probably next month we'll need to come back and make some decisions. Chief, are you comfortable with next month making some decisions?
Yes,
At the latest.
At the latest. The big thing on all of this is if this process is approved, it would still give us time for the interview process and work out the personnel, payroll, and all that issues that we have to get set here. The only thing that I think would be the biggest holdup would be ordering the vehicle.
Can I ask one more question? If you started off with a one-person model instead of a two-person, with a follow-up coming from paid on call, how would that reduce the costs of personnel? Because right now your personnel costs are $550,000 a year.
Yeah, and I think what we did is we put the pay scale. If you look at the charts I sent you, I put them right in, like the level 1 to level 9. And I believe we figured the cost at the middle mark. Now, not all of our candidates will start at the middle mark, but
If you
easy
didn't
figure
have
that.
2 people in a vehicle,
I think it was like 105 a person or something like that, I think was the cost.
how would that reduce the cost? Because I don't know how your scheduling would be as far as people on a shift.
Oh, you'd lose 2 people then.
Okay, so you'd only hire 2 people?
If you're gonna put one in a car.
Okay.
Yeah, we're still gonna run a 2-3-2 shift. How a 2-3-2 shift works is you work Monday and Tuesday, you have Wednesday and Thursday off, and you work Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Then you have Monday, Tuesday off, you're working Wednesday, Thursday, and then you have Friday, Saturday, and Sunday off. So every other weekend you are on duty.
And then what about vacation time? What do you do then?
That we're gonna have to backfill with station personnel. We would post that, and if nobody signed up, then I would have to adjust my schedule.
And or the halftime code enforcement, halftime permit. That's one of the reasons why. and,
Yes.
I know we're not gonna make any decisions tonight, but we'll, at the very latest at the next board meeting, we'll want to clarify what we're doing there, because I'm going through a process. Depending on what the board chooses, I think it's more prudent to have halftime code enforcement, halftime paramedic, and combine those 2 positions. But if the choice is not to do that, I have been interviewing candidates, so I'm approaching it from both angles. But in terms of backfilling, that would be that person as well, to backfill that vacation and to backfill sick time and PTO and things.
And that's one of the things, just general talk to the personnel that are at the station, in that position would be open for both stations to fill that. We believe there's going to be enough interest in it that the majority of them shifts will be filled.
One of the things that I did, and I pushed the chief on this, and it was one of the things that I emphasized quite a bit in designing this program, is I want to build a system that, we're gonna have some full-time staff at the fire department. That seems obvious at this point. And so I wanted to create a model so that our paid on-call people can move up through the ranks. And so if, let's say you end up doing 2 people on 2 shifts, I wanted to leave slots open for some of those paid on-call people to be able to fill in a shift here and fill in a shift there. And the reason for that is I want to be able to have that training and that exposure with your paid on-call guys to get them into a vertical movement at some point to become full-time. The problem with not doing that, just so you all know, is you get a division between your full-time people and your paid on-call people. And there are a lot of departments where there are massive conflicts that occur between paid on-call and full-time, and I don't want that to be created.
Question, Jim. We haven't really talked about the budgetary impact on, there's some numbers in front of us. If we were to delay this, or not, we're to actually talk about the budget, it's the budget next month. Do you think we can have a robust enough conversation in understanding on that budget to then blend it in appropriately into the 2023-24 budget?
No, this budget is going to come from the millage.
That's correct.
So it's going to be a little different budget conversation.
That's true.
I think the board really needs to decide. One, are they going to go full bore with what you want, Or are we gonna, or is the board gonna decide to back off and move a little more slowly? So.
Do we have the agenda set for the work session? This may be some time we want
Yeah,
to
we could,
talk about that at a work session.
that might be a good idea. So, all right. And we can talk about that some more and then that way we can have some decisions made for the March meeting.
Right. One more quick comment. One more quick comment. I'm not sure you're aware or not, the new Ford Lightning pickup trucks. Ford has a police version of that truck. And what I'm reading and what I've seen on that is that they're anticipating run mileages in the 300, 400, 500,000 mile range because it's just on an internal combustion engine and transmission that's wearing out. I would encourage at least look into that.
Absolutely.
Because for this kind of a vehicle that's going to be running all the time, it feels like it would be a nice way to get something where we could buy it once and run the living daylights out of it. Something to consider.
All the car companies that have it, and we'll look into that, they have police and fire packages. So they have equipment built, like you said, right?
This being electric though, I mean, it's just, I think it would be a game changer for what you're trying to do.
And seeing that Lightnings are being sold very quickly, you might get a good deal. And a quicker delivery.
Any other comments? Okay, all right, so we'll talk more about this at the work session, February 29, and then have this on the agenda for March. So, thank you, Chief. Thank you.
Thanks for all your work and your crew with this excellent, overwhelming job.
All right, now we're gonna move on to the discussion on master plan, mission, vision, goals. You pick them on up, please. Hopefully you had a chance to read through this.
Yeah, just kind of an update on where we are in the process. I'll kind of take you through where we've been and then where we're at right now and where we're going. We're getting really close. The biggest part of the heavy lift is happening right now as far as the writing and the reviewing of the early drafts. So that's pretty exciting. This has been a long project and we're getting very close. So we started about a year ago, right after we finished all the short-term rental conversations. We jumped right into the master plan. And we've kind of had two tracks going since then, what the Planning Commission has been doing and then what staff has been doing. So the Planning Commission started out by doing some subject matter investigations. So wanted to give them a little bit more understanding of the issues before we started trying to make decisions on that. So we talked about housing, agriculture, transportation, utilities, and then sustainability as well. And at the same time that was happening, that was when the mission, the vision, and the goals were also being developed. While Planning Commission was working on that, staff was working on planning the process and setting up the public engagement. The public engagement all happened over the summer. Going into the fall, the survey wrapped up in the fall. And we had 2 public open houses. We had about 125 people total at those. We had 2 pop-up events. We had about maybe 30 people at those. That was a little bit good to get out in the community and be seen, but not quite as many people there. Did a blueberry farmers outreach where we brought them all here, talked to them about what's going on in the blueberry industry, listened a lot. And we had about I had 2 RSVPs and 35 farmers show up for that one. So that was a good surprise. And then the survey as well. We had a couple hundred respondents to that. So once all of that public engagement kind of came back, then the Planning Commission went and said, okay, this is what we came up with when we were kind of talking through the issues and the mission and the vision and the goals. Let's revisit that in light of what we've heard. And there weren't really any dramatic changes of direction. I think that Park Township's been really consistent in its perception of itself and the direction that it wants to go. I don't see major changes as far as land use in the next few years. So where we are right now is I'm writing every waking hour. And the Planning Commission has been reviewing drafts. We're going to be finishing up the draft review, hopefully at the end of this month. And then It will be formatting time. So Harya Khan is working with us as well. She's going to be doing the formatting of the plan. We'll get the drafts, we've got the maps and all the pictures and whatnot to her. And then she'll put together the physical document itself. That will be presented in its full form to the Planning Commission no later than the April meeting. They'll have an opportunity after reviewing it to come back to it in the May meeting. And then we expect it to be here for your review in June. Now, the process of the master plan has some requirements that have been imposed on it at the state level. So there are review periods that have to happen. One of those is a 63 day, comment period. So if you approve the plan for dissemination in the month of June, that 63 days starts. We send it out to other units of government, and that brings us to about August. And at that point, Planning Commission again reviews any comments that have been received. Says, do we need to make any tweaks? Do we go way in the wrong direction? We don't expect that. And then it'll look back here. We're looking for adoption in the month of October is what we're targeting. I feel pretty comfortable that we still have some space in there. We're really trying to push this early part right now with the writing and initial drafting so that if there's anything down the line that comes up that we'll still have some space. We really want to get this done before November. So that's where we are right now. There were, I think, 3 items in your packet. One was a memo that just includes kind of what I've told you and a couple other things. You can kind of see how we've made a few changes. The plan changed structurally some, just to clean it up primarily. There were 2 different areas with 2 parts of the plan. They had sub areas. We're going to combine those to make it a little bit cleaner. And so you can see how the table of contents has changed a little bit with that. And then the mission and the vision and the goals. That was something that with the Planning Commission developed as well. There aren't dramatic changes as far as the goals go. The mission and the vision were newly written, and the goals are organized to fall under the topical themes that came out of the vision statement. So happy to answer any questions.
Just a comment, the reason you got this document now is the planning commission basically has completed this and reviewed it and basically stamped their approval of it. So rather than waiting until June to dump this all on you, we're giving it to you now. Next month, we'll have another document or 2 to give to you to review. So you can take your time and review it and look at the direction that we're really moving with the planning commission, which is really Park Township, giving you the whole vision, giving you all the goals. This is where we're really driving over the next 5 years. So it's here in your packet to basically give you the opportunity to start looking at it, rather than waiting until June and get the whole thing. And then we have multiple discussions. And so we're trying to some degree, I think this will help us also expedite to make sure that we make the October approval.
Jerry, a question on the document was very well done. I appreciate it. The objectives, policy, and possible action items. There's a lot of activities that are, take a look at this, identify that. There's a lot of interesting observations and questions. What's the intent of the Planning Commission? Is it to leave those open items as questions and opportunities in the final document? Or do you want us or you guys, the Planning Commission, to start to hone those down more? I mean, I look at this and go, like, well, these are great suggestions. Who owns it? I mean, and if it's in this document, it almost begs the question, are we working as a board, as a planning commission, to do this stuff? It's really, I find it fascinating that you identify a lot of potential actions, but I'm confused about now who and when.
It's a good question, a good thought. I think our goal is to leave them part of the plan so that they're there for us to move forward, to create action plans for, and to schedule that out and solve these issues or the challenges, so to speak, as we go forward, and not just let it die. Because we could put this document on the shelf won't look at it again, but now with specific things that we need to accomplish within each of those goals, so to speak. We could go forward with that, and then we can take each one and say, okay, what do we want to do with this really? And it'll be of both planning commission and the board, certainly.
One of the components of the plan is an implementation plan, and the planning commission was working on that last month, and we'll take another brief look at it again this month. And that takes a lot of the items from those goals. Some of them it kind of consolidates. We're not making it, we want to be careful not to make it so detailed that it feels like it pens us in, but at the same time to make sure we have enough detail to know that we're moving in the right direction. And that's for the master plan component. And those are rated as far as the anticipated or preferred timing that we start with those as well, to say kind of a soonest, a little bit later. Once this goes through the process and the implementation plan is in place, then I anticipate putting together a work plan, which will be much more detailed. It'll talk about things, both drawing it from the plan that staff will be doing, things that would come before you, as well as just things for the planning commission to work on, ordinances to write, and that sort of thing.
That be in this October approval?
Yes, the implementation plan would be, and then the work plan would flow from that.
Yeah, and you're gonna be surprised if you see some of the things that are pushed out 3 and 5 years from now. And I'm working with the planning commission to bring some of that stuff a lot further, a lot closer.
Just remember, we're limited in capacity.
You got another person coming on board. Don't give me that.
I think I mentioned it just depends on how much money you want to give me.
Any other questions? Thank
you.
Thank you much. Appreciate all your hard work.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Just a comment, yeah. Mika and David Klingon has done a tremendous job. Dave is doing a great job of leading the planning commission, and Mika is just keeping us busy.
All right, we're gonna move on to item C, which is the Coast Guard Station potential. You've seen the letter. You should have read the letter. I think really what we're looking for is maybe some discussion on that. We want to give the managers some input on, do we continue to pursue this? So, comments, questions?
All in favor?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, so someone can put a motion out there.
Okay, I'll make a motion. A comment before the motion. A comment being probably one of the most critical pieces of property that we could acquire in our term as this board. So I think this is a critical piece of property for the safety of our residents and larger community. So yes, this is a critical piece. Having the gift of being first right of refusal is something we should not take lightly. And so I make a motion that we pursue with great diligence this piece of property.
I second that, yeah.
I'd like to propose an amendment that expeditiously.
I concur.
You were gonna say something.
Just second, yeah, I support.
All right. Any other comments, questions?
I'm anxious to see what the appraiser will come back at.
It's a unique piece of property. It's gonna be a difficult item to actually appraise, because where else is there another one you can compare to?
Right.
Now.
Grand Haven.
Yeah. Right. You go down to the
Apples and oranges.
Yeah, or you can go down to the Michigan in South Haven to the Maritime Museum down in South Haven, which has got an old Coast Guard station there too.
Seeing that we as taxpayers have already paid for it once,
Right.
it should be a friendly assessment.
Dan,
So-
what do you think the chances of the federal government giving us?
Different pockets that your tax line is going into, so.
I'll also be interested in seeing, once we're into negotiations, what Mr. Warden might have to say about the condition of the building.
Has anyone been in it?
No,
No? Yeah.
I know I see him,
You have?
I know I see him grilling out there quite often.
Grill.
Yeah,
Warren, what's it like and when was the last time you were in it?
What was it like?
Last time I was in it was probably about 10 years ago, so I'm sure it changed a little bit, but. Obviously, it has sleeping quarters in there. It's got full kitchen, couch, living room, TV. And then out towards the front, I call the front the water side, is a full dispatch center where they can actually sit and run their radios. And if they get an alarm, that's where they would hit the button and the steps are right there going down. And directly underneath that, facing the water, is a garage with a physical big garage door where they have equipment in and out of.
It's probably, just so you all know, it's probably the beefiest dock on all of Lake Erie. That dock is, that dock's always there. If you look, next time you go drive by it, look at the pylons, on that dock. And, Matt, Dan Herter actually indicated he watched that dock be built and there's no other dock like that. That's very, very secure.
It'd be the way we do it.
I
think they parked a movie theater there. It was either a 200 or 250 ton rated dock. So it was something I can't, somebody told the Coast Guard.
Wow, I can believe that.
Wow.
Any other comments, questions? Right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Right. Now we're going to, I will look for a motion for us to go into closed session.
It's on your diets, whoever would like to make it.
Please read it as stated. If you would, so.
All right, I'll say it. I'd like to add a closed session. Let's see, motion to go into closed session. Motion that the board meet in a closed session pursuant to section 8(1)(h) of the Open Meetings Act to consider a confidential opinion letter from our attorney subject to attorney-client privilege, which is exempt from the discussion or disclosure by section 13(1)(g) of the Freedom of Information Act.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, any discussion? Right.
We-
Those in favor.
we need a
we're
roll
gonna
call.
do a roll call. Yep.
Right. Trustee DeHaan,
Yes.
trustee Jones, trustee Cerny,
Yes.
trustee Spoolhoff,
Yeah.
Madam Treasurer,
yes.
clerk votes yes, Mr. Supervisor.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, we'll look for a motion to go back into open session.
So moved.
Support.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Now we're on to the manager's report.
Three items. Three items. One is employee reviews are coming up, so know that I'll be going over performance with all the employees in time for the budget to be approved in March. One of the things that just recently occurred is that Flagstar is having some challenges from a bank perspective. I sent out an email that was between Connie and Jan. A number of years ago, I pushed for our investments to be collateralized, and Flagstar pushed back on that. I just happen to know that that is something that happens. And based on what I did in the former community. So all of our investments at Flagstar are collateralized. So even if Flagstar has an issue, we're safe. And they are having issues. I don't believe it's going to materialize into anything, but there is a slight concern of a run-on bank. And so we're in a much better position when our investments are collateralized. That does happen in large municipalities. Banks don't like to do it for smaller municipalities like us, but for example, like the county or larger institutions will always have their investments collateralized. And curious if that's a similar practice in the business world. But anyway, so we're comfortable there, and I know that Connie and Jan are. So thank you. And then lastly,
Which makes sense. I drove by today and the sign on the corner of
Was
River,
black.
it's black. You saw it too.
Yeah.
I thought that's odd.
it is.
Yeah.
I don't think they've left. I think they're going through some renovation or something like that. Because I asked the same question, like, did they go out of business? But I don't think. But anyway, right? Yeah. No. And they may be close, but I'll have to verify that. And then lastly, the community center committee has been just doing a fantastic job. One thing I want to mention to the board, and I'm going to send out an email later on this, is that we are engaging the kids. We are working with a number of students and schools, Rose Park Elementary and Black River. I do want to let you know that Hargy and the team did reach out to my wife, Eliza Bivens. So that will potentially be one of the classrooms or her entirety of all of her classes to do community participation and ask the kids, you know, what a new community center looks like in Park Township. A lot of students at Black River go to Park Township. I want you to know that I did not, say that that's who they should choose. That was their decision. And ultimately it benefits the township and benefits the committee, but I did want to let you guys know that because my wife is one of the teachers that they've reached out to. But the purpose of me telling you that is to really give kudos to Brian and his team, Len Pylon, Lydia Knowles, and the work that they're doing on that community center is just fantastic. That's it. And I can take any questions if you have any. Very
Quickly.
I know. Cindy Glennie has announced her retirement. I will be sending out an email to that effect, but she has announced her retirement, and so that'll be a position that we'll be filling. And I anticipate even a little bit of a retirement party. She's been in for me. So thank you for that.
All right.
When is she retiring?
She's retiring in about a month.
Okay.
All right, we're gonna move on to public comment now. Okay. All right, close public comment. Now we're gonna go, I think I started here last time. Any board member comments?
Well, thank you for your interest in Jay Peter's presentation from the CDP. I will, there was a document that was put together that I will forward into next month's packet that talks about the expenditures and where some of the money has gone. So you'll see you'll understand what's happening with less funds. So I saw the draft was ready to be put in next month's packet.
Okay. Great.
I did have a good community center meeting recently in January. Based some direction for got a number of actions going on. Reality is we've got a lot of work happening in this month. Like piece left over. So and bring it through your successful service.
Right.
You have agendas from both the West Michigan Airport Authority meetings and the MAC meeting. If there are any questions, I'll take them. All the action items were approved.
I'm not gonna make any further comments from what Mika put in the report. She did a phenomenal job of detailing that. The only thing I'll comment on is we're gonna meet next Thursday, an expedited extra meeting, to keep trucking on the master plan. Okay, thank you.
Macatawa or Max Transportation, I was not able to attend the meeting last month. And the month before that, we didn't have a meeting, so there was nothing to forward on to you. So I'll keep abreast of what's going on. They're getting together a new contract, sending it to the finance officer here. So we'll be seeing that hopefully soon.
And Lauren.
As far as ZBA, again, Mika does a nice job, so I'm not gonna repeat all that. And then as far as the fair board, nothing's really going on there. They did have convention last month and signed up some more entertainment for this year's fair, which sounds like they're on the right track for a nice fair this year.
Good, thank you. Right, I did not go to the MAT meeting because I had COVID, so Peter filled in for me, so thank you. We have a work session coming up February 29. At least we'll talk a little bit more about fire safety and coming vote in March. The other thing that we need to set up is we need to set up a strategic planning meeting. Are you in town still?
I'm back for good.
You're back for good. How about you, Terry? I know you were gonna be traveling.
Reminder, I will miss the 29th and the March 14th meeting. I'll be back April 1st, so anytime after that would be great.
April 1, okay.
I apologize, Jim. The trip that I was part of changed the starting date, so I would not make the February 20th.
Okay, all right, all right.
I'm going to South America.
Okay, all right.
Shucks.
3 countries, one with the question for launch center and chairman of the board and Austin.
All right, all right. Well,
it's not as all.
okay. So do we want to still meet on the 29th? Okay.
I think we need that.
Push it up to where? So.
I mean, I just that's. Discuss.
I'm on call the 22nd. So, let's see. Let's see. Well, let's do this. Send me some Monday dates in April that you can meet for strategic planning. I don't think you want to do it on a weekend. Yeah. Yep, send me, so that's what we'll do for strategic planning. April 1, so that's out. So how about, let me know about the 8th, 15th, 22nd, or 29th. Okay, that's out. 15. How about the 8th?
on that, I can be, eight is best. The objections,
Eighth. Dan, Lauren, are you good for the eighth? Yeah. Okay, good to. All right.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
We'll figure it out. We'll let you know. All right, let's see, so. Well, let me ponder the, trying to get together, so there's only gonna be 4 on the 29th. Do we still wanna meet? Okay, all right, we'll cancel the 29th. And let's see if we can come up with a different day.
Yeah, the 15th.
15th of what?
April.
No, we're going on the 8th. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Let me ponder what to do about the discussion regarding fire safety. And maybe I'll send out an email and we can come up with something. Right.
April 8th is at night.
April 8th, yes. Okay. When can you get out of work, Lauren? When can you be there?
Depends by every day, but I would say 5 should be.
Okay, we'll plan on 5. Somewhere. Okay.
Has anybody been there yet?
Yes, it's good. It's good. Yeah, it's a good state.
Is
Really
there a
good state.
reason why they're not publishing their prices?
Well, it's not inexpensive, but.
Is it,
I
is
mean,
it Bodie's
where
expensive?
in Holland is not expensive. So,
Is it Bodie's Chop House expensive or?
no, it's not that. It's
Oh,
not
good.
that bad.
Good. Good.
All right, we will look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. All right, thank you all.